Good morning, Ohayo gozaimasu, and welcome to the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii's 2020 annual membership meeting. My name is Susan Icor, and I'm a former board member of the center. The center is so very precious to me and my family, so it is really my honor to serve as your virtual host for today's meeting. Before we get started, the beautiful music that you've been hearing is actually from one of our JCCH members, and he's a former recipient of the Spirit of Aloha Award from the center. His name is Mr. Alvin Okami of the Ko Aloha Ukulele, and we want to thank Alvin and Pat Okami for their tremendous ongoing support of the center. So today, we are so thankful and grateful to all of you for joining us. There's so many great things happening at the JCCH, and we're going to be sharing those with you. The theme of today's meeting is Sekinin, our responsibility. When the coronavirus appeared earlier this year, we were all faced with so much uncertainty and challenge. But we adapted. We adapted how we live, how we work, how we shop, even how we interact with our friends and family. It wasn't easy, but we did this because we knew we had a responsibility to continue to support each other and to support our community. For the JCCH, the same is true. The JCCH is learning to adapt because we know that it is our responsibility to carry forward the traditions and culture of our Japanese heritage here in Hawaii. We do that through our programming and our community events, which honor our past, but maybe even more importantly, light the way for our future and for our children. Today, we're going to hear a lot about the current and future initiatives at the JCCH. And to get things started, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Scott Kuyoka, the president of the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii.
Thank you, Susan. As chairman of the JCCH Board of Directors, I want to welcome everyone to our 2020 virtual annual membership meeting. As board members of the JCCH, we believe that it is our responsibility to carry on the legacy of our center and community. Throughout the generations, our community has been resilient. Our founders had a vision of perpetuating the Japanese culture for future generations in Hawaii. Overcoming great obstacles, the founders' dream became a reality in 1982 with the completion of the construction of the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii. In 1991, faced with mounting debt, the community banded together, led by Colbert Matsumoto, and raised over $1.5 million to save the center. Now, 29 years later, we are faced with new challenges. It is our time, the next generation of leaders, to step up and take the responsibility of moving the center forward. Though there are many uncertainties ahead, we also see hope and opportunity. Today, we are excited to share with you the exciting programs and initiatives we are undertaking and our plans for the year ahead. To begin, I want to first introduce Kurt Ozaki, board member and co-chair of the Membership and Fundraising Committee. Thank you.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 JCCH membership meeting. My name is Kurt Osaki, and this is Jamie Kinoshita, co-chair of the Fundraising and Membership Committee. I am honored to announce a generous $1.3 million bequest to JCCH from Ms. Marie Otoshi.
Mrs. Otoshi was a humble and unassuming person who was born on the island of Hawaii. After graduating from the University of Hawaii, she worked for the state for many years. Throughout her life, she traveled widely and frequently to Japan. She had a love for Japanese art and culture. We were honored that she chose to support JCCH's mission to preserve and perpetuate the cultural heritage for future generations to come. To memorialize her gift, JCCH will install the Marie Otoshi Memorial Donor Wall.
The Marie Otoshi Memorial Wall would be located at the existing Tokonoma, right here, at the entry of JCCH. It was designed around the values of Ms. Otoshi: growth, hope, and the inspiring future generations. The design is inspired by Ms. Otoshi's love for Japanese art. The bonsai tree that is engraved represents continued growth, stability, and foundation of future generations. To honor Ms. Otoshi, we also plan to feature ikebana from various artists throughout the year. And finally, we chose a haiku to be engraved on the wall titled "Lighting One Candle" by Yuso Busan. The haiku goes as: the light of a candle is transferred to another candle, spring twilight. We plan to unveil the Marie Otoshi Memorial Wall later this month, and we hope everyone, from community to yourselves, can come and enjoy not only JCCH, but honor Ms. Otoshi's life. And now, I'd like to introduce Daniel Kamitaki and Leighton Hara, co-chairs of the Facilities and Operations Committee, to speak about our future plans.
Hi, I'm Leighton Hara.
I'm Daniel Kamitaki.
We're the co-chairs of the Japanese Cultural Center's Facilities and Operations Committee. So in a nutshell, that means that we're in charge of making sure that everything in the facility runs smoothly. It's a trying time with the pandemic. It's a new normal. And the Cultural Center, just like the rest of the community, has been devastated by the impacts of this pandemic. That being said, we have to make certain changes to accommodate this new normal. And we've done so by closing the Kuyoka Resource Center, closing the Honolulu exhibit, and also closing Okage-sama Day. But pivoting to the new normal, we've also opened up the gift shop where you can come in and make your purchases. You can come in and see the gifts that we have out there for you. And you can also make purchases online. So please come and support us. We can't wait for the day where you can come here in person, just like the good old days. But until then, let's take the steps we need to be safe and to get back to normal. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Leighton. As you know, we're entering Tier 2 of the reopening strategy for Honolulu. And here at JCCH, we've already begun planning on the best way to reopen the dojo and resume some of our other programs at the center. Of course, our first priority is the safety of our members, their guests, our tenants, and the employees of the center. And so we'll continue to actively monitor guidance from the state and county as it comes in. So please be on the lookout for communications as to the developments in the center in the months to come.
Stay safe and take care. Aloha.
In 2017, the center entered into a partnership with a national nonprofit, the Go for Broke National Education Center, and the plan was to develop high school curriculum as well as a classroom video about Nisei veterans. We are so pleased to be able to share that video with you today. And joining us to tell you more about the program is Dr. Mitch Maki, the Executive Director of Go for Broke, the National Education Center in Los Angeles, California.
How do you tell a story that is beyond description? One that begins with man at his very worst, only to see a select few rise up and show him at his very best, whose dignity and honor never dimmed in the face of prejudice, whose stature is irrelevant due to enormous courage, whose impossible accomplishments are celebrated in far reaches of the world, yet most in their own country have no idea who they are. This is the story of the unknown warriors of World War II, true American heroes.
And today, at long last, we award the Congressional Gold Medal to a group of Americans who are as deserving of it as any I have ever known.
The Congressional Gold Medal is Congress's highest honor, given only to those who achieved greatness for the betterment of this country. On November 2nd, 2011, a group of Japanese Americans received theirs, 70 years after their amazing story began. Pietrasanta, Italy, a beautiful coastal community, rich in art and history, and home to Americo Bugliani.
Over there is La Spezia.
This wonderfully energetic 78-year-old lives in a stunning, historic home with Anne, an American, his wife of 50 years. As he shows me around this amazing city, he takes me back to World War II, where life here was drastically different. The Nazis had taken over this area and kicked his family out of their house. They became refugees, no money, no home, starving. For years, every day was a struggle to survive. Desperate times, I imagine.
Desperate time.
But in the midst of all that tragedy, one April morning, 1945, something magical happened. Bugliani says the Americans had fought their way towards town, so, as a curious 12-year-old, he went to investigate, maybe even find some food.
We were hungry. We didn't have anything, and even the American coffee, the people said this is not that good, and we thought it was fantastic.
What he found was a bunch of pup tents. It was the Nisei soldiers resting before another epic battle. This picturesque Italian environment is where the 100th 442nd was camped out before they hit the Gothic line, right under these ancient olive trees, a 1,200-year-old church right over here. And the reason they were camped here is because of these hillsides. They worked as a barrier that protected the troops against German artillery. Bugliani takes me to the very spot where he met a soldier, although brief, but a meeting he would never forget. Tell me what happened.
I came around, and he saw me, and he told me,
Suggested you to come over?
he told me, come here, I don't know, and you understand that probably the international language.
For some reason, that soldier began to give that 12-year-old, a perfect stranger, gifts like food and candy.
He gave me a tube of Colgate toothpaste,
Oh, yeah?
a toothbrush. He gave me the picture, and he said, my name is Paul Sakamoto, and that's taken to my mind.
Paul Sakamoto. He never forgot that name. Why would a stranger who has been fighting through this horrendous war suddenly decide to be so generous to this child? The war would end. Bugliani would go on to live a successful life in America and Italy. Decades would go by, and then Americo decides he wants to find Sakamoto and meet him. He discovers the Nisei soldier survived the war and was living in Hawaii. The two would finally meet. Anne remembers it well.
He was just this big, and his heart was huge, and he was just so beautiful.
It was a meeting that finally answered some age-old questions.
Paul said when we met him that he had so much compassion for the children and the suffering of the children during the war.
Sakamoto also confessed that he was about to go into battle and felt that he was not going to survive. He knew that 12-year-old boy could use those items more than he. It was a stunning admission decades later. It may have been a chance meeting in this olive field that lasted only seconds, but Anne gets why it was so important.
The stories that my husband told me of what he went through during the war, it was unbelievable what they suffered. They lost everything. They were hungry. It was horrible. And this American soldier showed him kindness. And he never forgot. And it was the only moment of happiness that he had in all those war years. It was like a bright light. It was an American soldier. And so, you don't forget those things.
After Brières, there was no rest. Within days, the 442nd would find themselves back in the forest in an epic fight that will be labeled one of the greatest battles in U.S. history. A battalion of Texans were surrounded. The Nisei had to get them out. It will forever be known as the rescue of the Lost Battalion. This is the forest where the rescue of the Lost Battalion took place, and when you stand here in the middle of it, you can see how they described it. They said they literally had to fight from tree to tree, and keep in mind it was cold, wet, rainy, and muddy in that October month. And you can almost see that even on a day like today, how miserable that must have been. This is exactly where the Lost Battalion was dug in, up and down this hillside, and these foxholes are still here. This is a pretty good sized one. They were digging in them for 5 days, so they were substantial, and you could see, if you look around,
You could see the terrain that they were dealing with, the thick forest, the hillside, and they used this to protect themselves from the Nazis who had them surrounded.
Those foxholes helped the Texans fight off the Germans. It was an agonizing 5 days.
We were getting real low on food, medical supplies, and ammunition. And the first thing they did, they tried to shoot some chocolate D-bars into us. Right away, they got on the radio and come back and stopped that because we took some casualties from that hard chocolate.
At the same time, the Nisei soldiers were suffering enormous casualties. The fighting was fierce, but they broke the German lines, and this famous newsreel was taken just moments after the rescue. The Texans, forever grateful for a second chance at life.
And they saved my dad's life.
And no one understands that more than Anthony Agnoni from Redondo Beach.
This is my dad, Anthony Agnoni's Eisenhower jacket.
His father, who has since passed away, was rescued that fateful day, allowing him to come home, have children, including Anthony.
If it weren't for the 442, Dad would have never come home and had a happy life, and I wouldn't be here.
I met Anthony at a memorial for the fallen members of the 10442nd. He was carrying his father's uniform, still saying thank you to the soldiers who gave their lives so that his father could live his.
I think that every single one of them should be honored. It's long overdue.
This beautiful yet heartbreaking place sits in the foothills of the Vosges Mountains. It contains thousands of America's fallen from World War II. Soldiers who will never come home. Among them, Japanese Americans who, despite prejudice and ill treatment, bravely fought for their country and for the liberation of France. Now and forever, the adopted sons of this beautiful place. Often in life, there are forces beyond our control that drive us toward a destiny we could never predict, bringing us to a place that tests our character, our will, our faith. Perhaps that destiny is life's most difficult challenge, but out of it comes our greatest moment. Historian Eric Saul will never forget the day Clarence Matsumura walked up to him at the National Japanese American Society of San Francisco and told him something he couldn't believe. Before the war, Clarence's family owned a grocery store in Hollywood, California. They were incarcerated at Hard Mountain, so he volunteered for duty and became a member of the 522nd Field Artillery Battalion, part of the highly acclaimed 442nd Regimental Combat Team, comprised solely of Nisei soldiers. It was spring of 1945. It was the very tip of the spear of American forces pushing into Germany. He had the dangerous job of a forward observer, driving ahead, finding the retreating Nazis, and reporting their position to American forces.
All of a sudden, we heard shots. Immediately, you'd think that that was an encounter, so we would head towards the shots to support the firing.
The shots he's referring to are German machine guns, Nazi guards trying to kill as many Jewish inmates as possible before fleeing from the invading Americans. He had no idea that he had stumbled upon the Death March, emaciated inmates in striped uniforms, many of them dead, others barely alive.
Most of these people didn't have shoes on, and they had gone as far as they could go, and they couldn't walk anymore, so they were on the side of the road, and they were looking up at us. And you could tell every one of them was more than starved. They had been forced marched. The people that have been strong enough was scattering anytime we came close. I was on a back truck when we first stopped. The first thing I was doing is I was going over there trying to help these people. Anyhow, you're trying to take care of the people. You know, they were just so far gone that
Sali Gnor was a Lithuanian Jew.
And the Lithuanian Jews had suffered the highest casualties of any Jewish community in the entire war.
He has a remarkable story of how he, as a brilliant teenager who spoke 5 languages, survived years of hell.
And
I just slept. I didn't bother anyone. I didn't care. And I heard bullets all around, but I fell asleep.
He awoke the next morning to the sound of an approaching jeep.
And I was sure it was Germans, you know. And so I closed my eyes and I thought, that's it, you know. I didn't have enough time to run away. And I was sure they're going to shoot me. Then I heard them speaking English. I didn't know what to make of these. They didn't look like Americans to me.
It was 4 members of the 522nd. One of them approached him, gave him a Hershey bar, lifted him from the snow, and told him he was free, and then took him to get medical aid and food. It was Clarence.
See, that was the first face I saw of that, so it made on me an
impression.
Tremendous impression, obviously. It was between life and death and sanity, insanity, and he was the guy. And suddenly, after all that, I was rescued and I'm alive. And it was an incredible type of emotional feeling.
It was destiny, finding each other on that remarkable day in 1945, and then, a half-century later, from opposite sides of the globe, they find each other again.
And on May 2nd, 1992, the 47th anniversary that Clarence lifted Solly out of the snow and gave him food they had met in the Renaissance Ramada in Jerusalem. They met, and we all started crying for a half hour. It was the most amazing experience.
It was the first time Solly had cried in 47 years. One of the most amazing chapters yet least known of the Nisei soldiers' legacy is the Military Intelligence Service, or MIS. Many Nisei, even though they were Americans, had a firm grasp of the Japanese language and culture, and that proved to be invaluable against the Japanese Empire. Thousands were sent to the Pacific Theater. It was dangerous work. They were not only fighting alongside fellow Americans, but also given the responsibility of translating captured documents, interrogating Japanese prisoners, and intercepting radio transmissions. Their success rate was astounding.
The members of MIS were in many ways America's secret weapon in the war with Japan.
Their translations of captured enemy documents helped thwart Japanese battle plans and lead to resounding Allied victories.
Because of them, General MacArthur could later say that never in military history did any army know so much about the enemy prior to an actual engagement.
MacArthur would say the MIS shortened the war and saved countless lives. However, it's undeniable there were moments of conflict and difficulty for the Nisei. Their enemy was also their family and friends.
So I say, by the way, what school did you attend to?
Takahiro Higa lived and volunteered for duty in Hawaii, but grew up in Okinawa, and that's where he found himself during the war, interrogating prisoners, and one day realizing these prisoners went to school with him.
Finally, I was positive these 2 guys were my classmates. I yelled at them in Okinawa Hogen, eh? God damn, don't you recognize your own classmate? They look at me in shock, you know. So, and they start crying. Why are you crying? Well, until now, after this interrogation is over and our usefulness is over, you guys might take us over the hill and shoot them. Now, knowing that our own classmates on the other side of the fence, we figure our life will be saved. So we cry for happiness. That kind of hit me. So 3 of us grabbed each other's shoulder, and I don't mind tell you, we had a cry.
November 1st, 1943. Please tell the family that I am fine and not to worry too much. Bye for now, darling, and remember that I'll be thinking of you and Steve wherever we go from here. Forever, Shukichi. And that was his last letter.
How do you honor someone you never knew? And what if that someone is your father?
Dad and I actually never met each other. Dad shipped out for training when I was, not born. He was almost 27. He was in southern Italy, and he died with his company during the crossing of the Volturno River. Oh, this is a photo of Mom and Dad taken before they were married.
Everything Steve knows about his father is spread out on this table in La Palma, California. Photos, letters, newspaper articles. It's all he has, aside from the memories of a mother, widowed and heartbroken at 24.
She was, of course, devastated when she received word that Dad had died, and I don't remember many things because I was just a very, very young child, but I do remember the grief she experienced when Dad died. This is Mom's letter to Dad, well, one of the few that I have to remember her by. By the time it reached Dad's position, Dad had already died. November 2nd, 1943, Lihue, Hawaii. Dearest Shukichi, I just keep praying every day for my dear husband to come home soon. Wow, excuse me. It seems like ages since I heard from you, and hope that nothing has happened to you. I just can't seem to think straight with all the news of the boys of the 100 being killed. We all keep praying for this war to end real soon. P.S. Steve says, Daddy, please come home really soon and carry me in your arms and play with me. We want you to come home to us and be with us until death do us part. Yours forever, Kaoru. Sorry. I can almost feel her anguish. It's almost like she had a premonition too. She started telling me, we have to live longer now for Dad's share of life too. And that's the attitude she had for the rest of her life. And that's what she instilled in me too.
This is Steve's first birthday picture. It is the greatest link that he has with his father.
It was mailed to my dad. He didn't actually receive it till the mail call on the night that he died. I've talked to many of his friends that were in his company, a platoon, and the first thing they look at me and they say, "You're the baby in the picture. We just want you to know we remember your dad taking your photo, putting it in his backpack before the river crossing." And he said, "We want you to know that you were with your dad on the night that he died." I cling to that memory, and I believe that I was with him.
Feuer unseres massierten Angriffes schlägt mitten hinein.
"70 years ago, the world was in turmoil, in desperate need of leadership, courage, and decency. The Nisei warrior rose up and with a quiet dignity defended what was right. Through immeasurable sacrifice, they made the world a better place, and in true samurai fashion, just as quietly, faded away. Forever modest, a lesson for the ages."
What a story. Men of the MIS and the 442nd, thank you. Congress honors you today with this medal, but believe me, the honor is all ours.
love to see the morning turn into a beautiful day. The sun makes me feel like singing all my troubles and blues away. Every day I know I'll get this feeling over and over again. And somehow it seems impossible dreams can happen now and then. Funny, but I used to let the rainy days always get me down. Walking around with my head in a cloud until the day I finally found you are the one that makes the morning turn into a beautiful day. You are the one, the only one who chased the blues away. Funny how I used to let the rainy days always get me down. Walking around with my head in a cloud until the day I finally found you. You are the one that makes the morning turn into a beautiful day. You are the one, the only one who chased the blues away. Oh, how I love to see the morning. Oh, how I love to see the morning.
Wow. It was so nice to see all of the familiar faces on that slideshow and the video. Incredible. You know, maybe even more so on a morning like today when we are all contemplating the importance and the preciousness of our democracy. We want to thank Dr. Mitch Mackey, Go for Broke, and of course, the JCCH staff and volunteers who have worked so hard to create this incredible treasure for our community. The video, as well as the accompanying curriculum, will be on the JCCH website, as well as the Department of Education's website, so that the teachers can incorporate that into their in-class curriculums. You know, the JCCH is really going to look forward to continuing this important partnership with Go for Broke, and we'll be promoting the curriculum as well as sponsoring the online teacher training sessions during the year. Okay, so now I'd like to call back board members, Chair Scott Kuyoka and Kurt Osaki, you know, and thank you to the members who took the time to send in questions and areas that you'd like to learn more about the center. So Scott and Kurt are going to be covering that. So guys, you know, I'm going to go back to something we alluded to earlier in the meeting, and that was, you know, I want to congratulate you, the staff, the volunteers, for doing such an incredible job of pivoting during this pandemic. So I'm wondering, you know, if you could share more. And, you know, obviously today's annual meeting is a perfect example of taking something that used to be together in person and creating a virtual event so that we can still come together. I'll turn it over to you guys.
You know, Scott, before we get started, I wanted to comment on Mitch Mackey's film. You know, it's so powerful. You know, it especially in what we're going through today, in these days, it reminds us actually how fortunate we are. How fortunate we are for those who came before us. How fortunate we are that we can live the lives that we live today because a lot of people who sacrificed their lives. And I think it's kind of fitting. It ties into our theme of second in, our responsibility. So I just wanted to comment on that because it was very powerful watching that film. So, Scott, maybe you can start off and maybe ask, and maybe give everyone an update about what we're doing at the center. I know it's been very difficult, and I appreciate your leadership as chairman of the board and keeping us moving forward. I know a lot of things have been done behind the scenes right now, but we really appreciate our members out there and their continued support. And I think it's a good time to answer some of your questions that were sent.
Sure. Thanks, Kurt. So like many organizations and businesses across the nation and in our state, JCCH was severely impacted by the business closures as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. During this time, our priority remains the health and safety of our members, volunteers, staff, and tenants of the Cultural Center. Also, as you know, and as everybody knows, large gatherings and non-essential businesses are restricted under the city and counties of Honolulu's recovery framework. These restrictions have heavily impacted JCCH's major sources of revenue, as well as our ability to deliver our current program. We did lose our single largest tenant, Manoa Grand Ballrooms, after 22 years of operations. Their departure has led to a domino impact on our finances. However, our board has been working really hard to shore up the organization's finances and find a way to survive despite the impact of these revenue streams. We continue to have 3 full-time and 3 part-time staff at the center. And we thank all of the volunteers for graciously offering to donate their time to help keep the center going during these difficult times. So, Kurt, one of the exciting and new programming that we're contemplating, or that's starting up because of this need to pivot, is something that both you and Jamie have been working on. Would you like to share that with the membership?
Sure. Like Scott had mentioned, safety is our first concern at the center. And, I got to really thank the staff and the volunteers right now and what they're doing to keep the center, moving forward, especially our board members also. But we've been working behind the scenes, a lot of exciting. I think during this pandemic, there's a lot of exciting things that can happen, some silver linings, new things that we can do. And a lot of things are going to be virtual. Unfortunately, the center is about meeting and coming together, but we're going to do some fun virtual events for our kids, for our parents. We're fortunate we got partners like Ben Franklin out there. We're working on some online craft shows. Scott, you're going to like this. We're even going to include some sake tasting. But part of it is to not just provide, I think, content online, but also to support our community. We can't do the Ohana Festival this year. So how can we get our vendors who have been so supportive of us throughout the years and help them? As we all know, we're all going through tough times, especially our businesses. But that's the purpose of our center, I think, is to reach out, constantly trying to reach out and support one another. So we're looking at calligraphy classes, Ikebana classes. Ken has been doing a great job online for the store. So please, as much as everyone can, please visit the store and online. But they've been doing a great job with the store. So a lot of active things. And as we slowly open, our economy, we're probably going to initiate a little bit more things, but there's a lot of exciting things coming up this year. I want to really say very new things that we have not touched in the past.
That's great. Thanks, Kurt. I'd like to share with the rest of the membership what our priorities right now are for the organization. One of the first ones I mentioned earlier was to transform our facility. Our largest asset to help produce revenue and to support the center, and also to ensure that the property is in good working conditions. As you know, as a result of COVID, there are some changes that property owners have to make sure that those that come to the center are safe. We've been lucky also to secure some grant and aids in the past to help maintain the center, but also going forward, those revenue sources we don't believe will be there. And so we're going to have to work hard to figure out how do we position the facility both for the center as well as to ensure that we have a secure source of income going forward. Secondly, it's the programming that you did. You're talking about, Kurt. We want to transform that programming. We really need to leverage technology to become relevant, and because we are not able to do that physically. Right now, most of our programming does require physical presence. It requires people to come to the property. This includes Okage-sama Day, the Kuyoka Resource Center, our gift shop, as well as other programs that we have. We want to, as Kurt mentioned, we are going to be refreshing those programs, as well as we hope to, with that, to grow our membership. I don't know if we have any other questions that have come in.
Scott, we all know our members who are on today's program are our lifeblood, right? And that's why we do what we do, right? Every day. How can the members get involved? Again, it's coming together, working together. How can the members get involved in this current times?
That's a great question. Well, our members can get involved several ways. The first, subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on social media. JCCH has an Instagram and Facebook account. Please stay in touch. Secondly, please encourage all your sons and daughters to become members, especially those with children, so they can take advantage of this new programming that's going to be coming up, as Kurt mentioned. We're always looking for donations to support our gift shop. As Kurt mentioned, that is moving online, and so that's very exciting. We're still able to sell some of those goods that are still there, and then also keep us in mind for our annual giving campaign, which should be starting up very shortly. And then lastly, we encourage all of our members to contact JCCH if they have any suggestions moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to also add, because I'm going to probably be involved in the Spirit of Aloha Gala, at the end of next year. It's on the calendar, but of course, like we mentioned, safety is first. So it may be virtual, it may be live, it may be, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, right? But keep in mind that the gala is still in progress, in process, and we encourage our members to reach out to us. Not only reach out to us at any time, I think. It's important that we can answer your questions. It's important that we can address some of your needs. If we can support, that's what the center is here for, to support our members and our community.
Okay, well, thanks, Kurt. So I guess in closing, I just would like to thank everyone for attending our 2020 annual membership virtual meeting. Thank you, Susan, for serving as our virtual MC. Also, thank you to our board members, Deidre, Kurt, and Jamie, for all their hard work coordinating and organizing our first virtual meeting. Thank you to our staff and board who have worked tirelessly throughout the year. And finally, I would like to thank you, our loyal members and volunteers, who have taken the responsibility of supporting and carrying on the legacy of JCCH. Without you, the JCCH would not be able to support our community by honoring our heritage, embracing our diversity, and sharing our future. As we close out 2020, we thank you for your past support and look forward to a promising 2021. Mahalo.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, how I love to see the morning turn into a beautiful day. The sun makes me feel like singing all my troubles and blues away. Every day I know I'll get this feeling over and over again. And somehow it seems impossible dreams can happen now and then. Funny, but I used to let the rainy days always get me down, walking around with my head in a cloud until the day I finally found you are the one that makes the morning turn into a beautiful day. You are the one, the only one who chased the blues away. Funny how I used to let the rainy days always get me down, walking around with my head in a cloud until the day I finally found you. You are the one that makes the morning turn into a beautiful day. You are the one, the only one who chased the blues away. Oh, how I love to see the morning. Oh, how I love to see the morning.